Hey everyone, I'm the Canadian Lad, and today I watched Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse at 0.25x speed and found 25 incredible hidden details that will blow your mind. Now I know some of you might be wondering, why am I making another video on Spider-Verse? Well, if you notice, I haven't done a 0.25x speed breakdown on it yet. And most importantly, this time I reached out to some of the animators of this movie and got to learn about some amazing details from the film. This is gonna be a very different type of a breakdown than you normally see on my channel, because in this one, I'm gonna take you into the minds of some of the creators of this movie. Now, about 3 million people have already watched my 3-part breakdown series on this movie, so I won't waste your time repeating any of the details from these videos. If you catch me repeating a detail, please unsubscribe me. But if you don't, then make sure you do subscribe if you haven't already. Alright, let's begin the breakdown. Number 1. After Gwen failed to stop the Spot in time, she asks Jessica Drew not to report anything to Miguel yet, and to give her another chance. Now, although Jessica does agree not to reveal anything to Miguel, but later in the movie, we discover that Miguel had been discreetly watching over Gwen and Miles all along. Number 2. At exactly 1 hour and 2 minutes, Jessica Drew tells Gwen that she has 1 hour to fix everything.
You got an hour to fix this.
And exactly 1 hour later, Miles and Gwen realize that Miles is in the wrong universe. Talk about attention to detail, eh? Number 3. Spencer one of the animators for the film, used spam emails he received as background textures for Hobie Brown's animation throughout the film. Number 4. Spencer one has also revealed that the animation for Spider-Man India used to look a lot different in the initial stages. For example, he used to be a lot smaller and used the wires in the city to get around instead of webs. It was a nice idea given the fact that India has a lot of wires all over their cities, and Pavitr could have used them for his benefit. But ultimately, they focused on his unique martial art ability, which lets him use his feet while navigating his webs. Number 5. In the scene where Miguel unmasks himself and was literally about to eat Vulture alive with his venomous fangs, notice here for less than a second, we can see the classic spider web pattern here. Number 6. When the Spot was about to steal some money from the ATM, notice the face on the $100 bill is not of Benjamin Franklin, but Alan Hawkins, the Sony Animation supervisor. Number 7. When the Spot messes up and the ATM gets stuck halfway between the street and this store, a pedestrian gets stripped off by this ATM, and we see Spot trying his best to push the ATM into the portal. Now, this entire scene was created by Aaron Baker along with a few more talented artists, and here you can see that he performed the falling guy act as well as the Spot trying to push the ATM. I mean, we must appreciate what the animators put themselves through to get these amazing shots. Sometimes we think the animators just animate, but that's not true. They're fully grown performers, and you will see more of it in this video. Number 8. In the beginning, when we see Gwen and Peter saying grace along with their families, the time-lapse shows us that Gwen and Peter have been friends for quite some time now. We see them celebrating Gwen's birthday, dressing up for Halloween, and then celebrating Christmas together. But their outfits aren't the only thing that changes throughout the time-lapse. Notice this photo frame on the wall in the background, which is probably a photo from Captain Stacy's wedding. This photo keeps changing its position, and we even see new photo frames on the wall, and I really appreciate this attention to detail because you would assume that within the passage of time, they would make some changes in their interior design in the house, and that's exactly what this is. Number 9. The color grading of this movie has a different story on its own. For example, here, notice Gwen is depicted in blue while Captain Stacy is depicted in orange, meaning the color blue represents sadness and hopelessness, while the color orange stands for the exact opposite. Now notice as soon as Gwen hugs her father, the orange color starts to spread across Gwen's room, implying how Captain Stacy's optimism is slowly evaporating Gwen's sadness. Number 10. Before the animators completed Spider-Punk's model, they actually used a model of Miles to run some mock-up tests in the graffiti room. There was so much experimenting here, like the staples and tape holding the background together, ripped paper edges, jittering, costume swaps, and texture swaps. Number 11. Alright, at this point we all know Miles had to apologize for endorsing a baby powder, and one of the comments in that video reads, "I heard it was made from actual babies though." But notice in the digital version, the comment is now changed and it says, "Old Spider-Man didn't need baby powder," referring to Peter Parker who died in this universe. Also, notice they changed the username of the comment from Chris OK to Spider-Man Fan 743921. Number 12. Miles posted another apology video for his weird mustache. And here we see the comment from Chris OK. But notice it is also changed from the theatrical version. The theatrical version said, "I heard it was made from actual babies though," but the digital version says, "I heard it was made from actual spider legs though." Now I've asked the animation team as to why make these subtle changes between the theatrical cut and the digital cut, and the only answer I got was it's pretty much up to the producers of this movie, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who basically make these changes, and the animation team are never in those meetings. So it's like different animators animate the same scene, but then it's up to Phil and Chris to decide which one will make the theatrical cut and which one in digital. Number 13. As I mentioned how the color coordination in this film tells a story of its own, notice in the scene where Gwen was about to take her mask off and reveal her true identity to her father, all of these colors were raining down in the background, indicating how Gwen is going through all sorts of emotions while revealing herself to her father. In fact, a few seconds later, when she seems to get frustrated at her father, notice the background now changes to a darker shade, again painting a picture of what she is feeling inside. So yes, the background colors in this movie are a great indicator as to how a character is feeling in a particular moment. Number 14. Aaron Baker, who I mentioned already in the video, has also performed references for the whole parents meeting at school. Now what's interesting is that he has performed references for all 4 characters in this scene. You must follow him on Twitter, where he shares behind the scenes like these and gives us valuable insights into how these movies are made. Number 15. When Miles was sitting on top of the clock tower in Brooklyn and drawing something on his sketchbook, notice a very clever detail here.
Maybe in some other universe. Sometimes I just wish I wasn't the only one.
Do you see it? Well, notice how the background gradually takes form as Miles sketches in his notebook. It's as if Miles is crafting his own environment through his drawings. The animation team's choice here, synchronizing the background seamlessly with Miles' artwork rather than using already rendered backgrounds, is something I find truly unique. Number 16. In Miles' dimension, aka Earth 1610, Michelle Obama is running for president in 2024. But in evil Miles' dimension, aka Earth 42, AOC is running for the office instead. Now I don't know how to feel about this because Earth 42 is not exactly run by good people, so I don't know what it implies. I'll leave it up to you lads. Number 17. In Mumbattan, when everything starts falling apart, Miles takes the lead and asks the team to do this.
We'll clear the path. You slow down that building.
Now notice Spider-Man India literally lifts up an entire vehicle carrying passengers. This is called an auto rickshaw in India, and we can see many of them standing over the bridge as well. Number 18. Towards the end of the movie, Spider-Punk sends a device to Gwen that would allow her to travel through the multiverse. And we're given the idea very early in the film that Spider-Punk is essentially stealing a lot of items from the Spider Society HQ, which he later assembles into a device for interdimensional travel. And notice one of the items that he stole right in front of Miles is this purple battery-like thing, and this exact battery is attached right on the face of the device that Spider-Punk sent Gwen. This small attention to detail paints us the whole picture without having to write a separate scene for it. Just by looking at this purple battery on top of this device, we can deduce that Spider-Punk must have made this device with the items that he stole. Attention to details like these allow writers to write more freely, where they don't have to write an explanation for every single thing that's happening. Number 19. When Miguel sends Gwen back home using the Go Home machine, there are a couple of hidden details here as well. First, notice that Miguel didn't say a word, and still the spider robot from the Go Home machine was already gearing up to capture Gwen. Let me play it out a little bit so you understand it better.
Are you serious right now? I'm not coming.
You're right.
This implies that Miguel can manipulate his surroundings inside the HQ with his telekinesis ability. Now in the comics, his abilities are telepathic rather than telekinetic, but the fact that Miguel moves certain objects with his mind leads me to believe he has both abilities in the movie. Number 20. Now this detail is directly taken from Michael Lesker, the visual effects supervisor for Across the Spider-Verse. Take a closer look at the spider robot from the Go Home machine. It seems to be walking on a physical surface, whereas in reality it's a void space. And this was a deliberate choice from the VFX team here. They created these floating red laser webs that's only visible when the giant spider robot stepped on it. This allowed the spider robot to walk freely even in this void in order to grab Gwen. So rather than animating a flying machine, we now have a more sophisticated version of it. Number 21. So far, there are many obvious clues that gives it away that Miles is in a wrong universe, like Miles' jacket, which is purple and green instead of blue, and Rio's eyes, which is green instead of brown. But let me now give you a detail that only someone like Michael Lesker can tell us about. Apart from the obvious differences, Earth-42 is made with colors that recede into blocked up shadows, and the inking style is heavy and gritty. Let me explain what it means. Pay attention to the inking style on Rio's face compared to Miles's. You'll notice that heavier ink lines are added to Rio, but not Miles, since it's her universe, not his. Thanks again to Michael Lesker for giving us insights into this scene that we wouldn't have known otherwise. Number 22. Spider-Punk's shoelaces are colored blue. This is potentially a reference to punk communities and their use of lace code. In this case, blue means that someone has killed a police officer, a possible reference to Spider-Punk's canon event involving his Captain Stacy. Number 23. Initially, Miguel O'Hara's facial expression wasn't as evil or menacing. Therefore, animator and character designer Ami Thompson added additional brush lines to emphasize his facial features. And then the animation team extended this approach to Miguel's shoulders by crossing these lines on the edges. The lines on his shoulders would always cross each other like a rough sketch. And this approach fundamentally created the concept behind Miguel's unique animation style. Number 24. A lot of people seem to think that Miguel O'Hara would always watch old recordings of his daughter to relive the cherished moments. But if you notice very carefully, the Miguel in the footage possesses brown eyes, while our Miguel has red eyes, even when exposed to sunlight. This implies that Miguel O'Hara was actually watching recordings of an alternate version of himself, who had lived happily with his daughter before he was killed. And this makes it even sad if you think about it, because although he did replace his alternate version, but he never got to live any of the happy moments with his daughter that he thought he would. That was only meant for the alternate Miguel who died. Number 25. Now you probably remember this iconic scene where Miles traps Miguel with his Venom Blast, and I've given you plenty of hidden details from this scene already. But this time, let me dig deeper and give you another layer of attention to detail. Here's a footage of the animation when it was still being processed and tested, and here we get to see this whole explosion from a different angle. And notice in slow motion, we can see that the blast animation is shaped like a spider. Precisely a spider that is biting Miguel O'Hara. Not only that, even the lightning that comes afterwards is shaped like a spider web. Now, of course, this scene doesn't exactly look like this in the final product, but I just wanted to tell you the thoughts that go into animating all these scenes that sometimes last on screen for 1 or 2 seconds. Number 26. At the end of the movie, when Miles is tied to the punching bag, we can see that Uncle Aaron had put rubber gloves on Miles to prevent him from using his venom powers. Meaning, when evil Miles knocked out our Miles, his venom powers were still surging electricity from his hands to protect himself from any imminent danger, indicating Miles's venom powers still work even when he's unconscious. And that's why evil Miles and Uncle Aaron have put on gloves on Miles to prevent him from using his electric powers. And when Miles comes back to his senses, we can see him struggling trying to use his powers, realizing it won't work with the gloves on. So right at the end, Miles tears the glove with his index finger, which then allows him to directly venom strike these chains, therefore perfectly setting up Beyond the Spider-Verse. Thanks to Badger for sending me this detail, which a lot of people are overlooking. And that's it. This would be my breakdown of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse at 0.2 Febix speed. With this video, I now conclude my breakdown of this amazing movie. Thanks once again to all the animators and visual effects supervisors who have responded to my requests and answered all my questions with extreme patience. Please make sure to follow them on Twitter, as I've linked their profiles in the description. My next video is going to be another unique one where I'll talk about an Indian movie for the first time on the channel called Jawan, because that is a movie I think we all can learn from. Till then, I'll see you lads in the next one.